Hello there booktube, my name is Daniel. Welcome back to my channel Guilty Feet. I've fallen in love. I've fallen in love for the first time, and this time I've got no rhythm. Today I want to do a catch-up, let you know what's going on. I've got a whole bunch of books here that I've read and haven't spoken about. Some of these are last books in a trilogy. One is a first book in a trilogy, and then others have just got the third book by the author. Number 3 keeps coming up here. So we'll take you through some of these. Just back from a cheeky weekend away, my wife and I drove down to Eilat, which is the southernmost part of Israel, about a 4.5-hour drive from where we live, which is north of Tel Aviv, in the suburbs. We left Thursday morning. The idea was to leave very early in the morning. We wanted to try and get there at about 5:30, and we'd set our alarms to wake us up. We didn't get to hear our alarms because the Houthis aimed another rocket at us, so we got air raid sirens that woke us up about 15 minutes before our alarm was supposed to wake us up. So that was a fun start to the morning. Run down to the bomb shelter, sit there, wait for the all clear, came back up, finished packing, got in the car, and got on the road for 4.5 hours, which may have been foolhardy, but we did it, and we had a fantastic weekend away. Did lots of reading, some of which I'm going to talk about now. One of the things that tickles me on the way down to Eilat, so we drive south from here, past Tel Aviv. Jerusalem is sort of inland a bit, but we go past where Jerusalem is, past the city of Beersheba, and then there's a lot of desert. And one of the signs on the road, which you don't see in most parts of the country, or in fact anywhere in the world, is as you're just driving through a desert, and there's a sign on the road saying, "Beware camels crossing." So that kind of tickled my fancy. What else do I want to say? What's going on? Oh yeah, the most exciting book news for me of the year, and I'll say that and let you know what's happened at the end. Okay, let's go through some of the books. There's a wild catch-up of stuff that I've read sort of fairly recently. So one of these was this great big book, The Russian Detective, written and drawn by Carol Adlam. This was a graphic novel that is sort of part drawing. I guess that's sort of I don't know what you call that. That's sort of ink or oil. I have no idea what kind of. I don't know anything about cartooning or drawing or whatever it is. She seems. I think Carol Adlam is a professor of something. Again, that's me being ignorant, I guess. I think the reason I got this might have been in the Guardian's best of 2024 list of graphic novels, and I read a lot of comic books. I read a lot of sort of superhero graphic novels. I went to see Superman last night, new Superman, with my brother, who's an even bigger a fan of DC than I am, and liked it. I think perhaps, I think the best portrayal of Lois Lane that we've ever seen, and I just thought it was kind of good and comic booky and less disappointing than the last 2 decades of DC movies. Anyway, so I read a lot of comic book stuff. I like comic books, so I like to read graphic novels that make me feel good about myself. This is a giant, look, compared to a book, this is the size of this thing. It was just meh for me. A story, sort of Victorian ghost story. I paid, this was 20 quid. I paid half price for this. I must have got this from eBay for brand new. I don't know if it's ever been read before, but just not really worth a whole lot of money. Instead, I'll talk about a book that I got sent for free. I was given I was sent a copy of Spent, the latest book by Alison Bechdel. Just to give you my background with Bechdel, I've read Fun Home, that's very shiny, Fun Home by Alison Bechdel. I also saw the musical on Broadway that was made from that property, Fun Home. I've also read Are You My Mother by Alison Bechdel. This was many years ago. I haven't read her last couple of books. One of them was about her working out, and one of them was a sort of compilation of her comic book series, whose title I won't say here. But Spent is sort of autobiographical and finds Bechdel living in upstate New York, a sort of bucolic life on a farm with her partner and some of the old crew from that earlier comic strip, and this was jolly good fun and funny. Old people, queer people, people with a sense of humour about themselves, living perfectly ordinary lives, and a lot of self-deprecating humour. a lot of fun to be had, poking fun at sort of quirky queer stereotypes, mostly poking fun at herself, which is always, to me, self-deprecating humor is always the best kind of humor. So I like this now. Again, this is £20 brand new. I was very blessed that I did not spend £20 on this. I was given this for free, but I jolly well enjoyed it. That being the case, and can recommend it. It's in a different tone than, say, Fun Home, which is I guess autobiographical. This is much more wry, much more. This is well, 20, 30 years on from writing that. This is an older and wiser, sillier version of Alison Bechdel and her life. So that's Spent by Alison Bechdel. I really enjoyed that. So that was the third. That's my third Bechdel. Okay, what else have I got here? I also read my third book by Maggie Nelson. So previously I've read The Argonauts, which is a genuinely mind-expanding and amazing book that I recommend to anybody. And then I read Bluets, which was sort of recommended for people who, I discovered Maggie Nelson through The Argonauts, and this was something I was recommended, and really enjoyed this sort of prose, poetry, weird, but a very sort of moving and wonderful book. I don't know if you can see that. It's Bluets by Maggie Nelson. And then I was sent for free, so this is another free thing that I probably would not have bought myself. This, I believe, is uncorrected proof, so an advanced reader's copy, or whatever you want to call it, of Pathamata, The Story of My Mouth. Sort of very short, again, the sort of same kind of sort of prose poetry of that I encountered with Bluets, but not a whole lot of there. Something in her mouth and some kind of medical treatment that she needs, and it's turned somehow into poetry, or pro, or I don't know what it was. It didn't really work for me in any, and so short. The whole thing was 70 pages, so no, 60 pages. So even before 70 pages. So even before, it just was no chance for it to go in and make an impression in the way that both the earlier books that I read by Maggie Nelson did. There's at least one more backlist Maggie Nelson that I'd like to get to, but that was my third Maggie Nelson, Pathamata, The Story of My Mouth. Thank you, Vintage, for sending me an advanced copy of it. But okay, another third in the trilogy that I read was Unconditional Surrender by Evelyn Moore, which is the third in the what's this trilogy called? Not Sword of Honor, whatever it is. The first one was Men at Arms, then Officers and Gentlemen, and then I read Unconditional Surrender. And this is a beautiful matching set of these vintage penguins covered by penguins, covers actually by Quentin Blake. If you know, you know. I had bought a one-volume version of this trilogy, and then realised that it was an edited version, edited by Moore himself, but still not the original form that those books came in. And that was fine. I was going to read that, and I reached out to the marvellous diva Steve Donoghue, and asked him if I'm going to read this once, as I probably will because I'm not the marvellous diva Steve Donoghue, should I read the one-volume version that was edited and reordered by Evelyn Moore, or should I read the original 3 volumes? And he suggested to me that I should read the original 3 volumes. So in a fit of pique, I sent him my copy of the 1 volume, and managed to get hold of these 3 matching copies that have just been fabulous. We read War in school, A Decline and Fall, I think, and Scoop, and maybe even The Loved Ones. And then Brideshead Revisited was a big budget TV show when I was sort of 11, 12, the early 80s that my parents watched. And I sort of pigeonholed War. I put him in that place of something we do at school or something our parents read, and sort of left him behind for 30 odd years, if not more. And then on a whim, picked up in Edinburgh 2 or 3 years ago, a copy of Brideshead Revisited, and read it and was blown away by it, and thought I would go back and read these. And each one of these has been a tremendous sort of melancholy look at war and how cruel it is, and our hero, if you can even call him that guy, Crouchback, is Crouchback, I beg your pardon, is sort of wanders through these things. He's a little too old for war at the start and manages to talk his way in because he's divorced and kind of lost. Well, he's divorced, except as a Catholic, he doesn't really believe that he ever should be divorced. And so, even while his wife is carrying on and having her own adventures during the war, he is sort of pining always. And in the last book, we get we move towards the end of the war and to resolution of Crouchback's story and the people he's met along the way and what happens to them, and even also his wife, and what happens to her. And it's sort of still just as funny, and the set pieces are just as well written and sort of moving and pathetic. And the sum of the whole project was something that was quite moving and wonderful. So that was the last of those, Unconditional Surrender by Evelyn Moore, the last in this trilogy. And I think I may go and find some more War to read, because that was War, W-A-G-H rather than W-A-R, because that was perfectly marvellous. What else have I got? A book that I don't have here because I've already lent it out to a friend. It was listed by the New York Times as one of the top 10 books of 2024. I think they do 5 fiction, 5 non-fiction. This was in the non-fiction, and it's called Everyone Who Has Gone Is Here by Jonathan Blitzer, who's a writer for the New Yorker, I believe, and a fabulous work of narrative non-fiction talking about the border crisis and the southern border of America, and all the reasons that people have left their countries and fled in order to try to get to America, and how many of those are caused by American interference in their home countries, making them refugees from a problem caused by America, which then America treats them as another problem, and just the history, last 40, 50 years of American introductions. And it's not about the cruelty of one party over another, because we see that some of these policies continued whether Democrats or Republicans were in power, and just the banality and the ridiculousness of some of the policies, and the realities that these impact real people and real lives. A really tremendously well-researched, well-written, a readable, accessible book. I recommend that. The title again is Everyone Who Has Gone Is Here by Jonathan Blitzer. When I get it back from my friend, I'll just hold it up so you can see everything, but really, really worthwhile seeking out. Okay, what else did I read? So we went away this weekend. So we went away on Thursday. So I read over the weekend. My wife read one of the books, the book that I'm now reading. She read that, and then she also read the latest Edward St. Alban book, Parallel Lives, whichever one. I got sent for free and I brought it with me. I haven't read it yet, but she read it, which was great. I read the following. So first of all, I read Awake by Harold Vertman, translated by Johan Sorgenfrey Otterson. Translated from the Danish, I believe. I've got to back that up. This, I can't even remember what, Norwegian, perhaps. I've got the second. This is a part of a trilogy, and you can't make them out here, but you could this one's Awake, and you can underneath embossed is the titles of the next 2 books, because these were published originally in 2011 and then translated in the last couple of years. And I must have read something that said he's the new something, which piqued my fancy, and bought the first 2 books, which is annoying because the first 2 books are these lovely. So this is the brown. The next one is the same as this, but navy blue. And then the third one hadn't been published yet by this British publisher, Lolly, that published a lot of translated work. And then the third one, they've gone with a whole new design. So I'm not going to have a matching set. So I've gone for this beautiful matching set there. This is the first in a trilogy where the first 2 will match and the third one won't. Weird. This is weird, and I don't even know what to make of this. 120 pages all told, so it doesn't. 130 pages doesn't stick around long enough to be irritating. It's just odd. It's about Pliny the Elder and Pliny the Younger, and Diocles, who is transcribing Pliny the Elder's thoughts and his writing, and odd and weird and sort of a bit filthy and kind of disgusting. And then there's descriptions of sort of gladiatorial games and a lot of nosebleeds. weird. I don't even really know what to make of this, but I've got the second one, which I understand is nothing to do with the Plinies. It's about Tycho Brahe. I don't know if I'm saying that right. So just weird characters and their relationship to humanity. Awake by Harold Vertman. I don't know why. I guess this was just me trying to be fancy, but it was kind of weirdly enjoyable. And I got the second one. Whether I'll get to the third, I don't know. I did that. Then I read another Agatha Christie. This is the ABC Murders. Another Poirot. I'm reading the Poirot books in publication order. Must be 10, 12, something like that. So I've read the first small. I'm still a fraction of the way into these books. Just outstanding. This is another outstanding. This is the ABC Murders. There's a serial killer here, and every trope that you've ever seen in stories about movies, books, TV shows, whatever you've ever seen about serial killers, is all here. I'm not saying this is the first serial killer book, but every trope you've ever learned, from the idea that the serial killer just wants the publicity and challenging the detective. So Poirot is sent a letter saying, come and get me. You won't catch me in time. We see a little bit into the suspect's mind, and then we try and anticipate where his next move is, and we follow the pattern and we try and find a motive. But everything you've ever seen, down to there's a police conference where they decide how much to release to the press, whether that be helpful or whether that's playing into the serial killer's hands because he wants everyone to follow the story. Everything you've ever known, she was doing it 100 years ago. This is absolutely fair. Well, 90 years ago, to be fair. Absolutely fantastic. The ABC Murders, Agatha Christie. I know I'm stupid that I'm here telling you about how great Agatha Christie is, that I only started reading her in my 50s. But I continue to be blown away by how readable, fantastic, original, interesting, modern each of these stories is. Okay, after that, I read the third in this trilogy, and this is perhaps my most mismatched trilogy that I've ever owned. So I started reading and I took the third book with me on holiday because I think I read the first one on holiday. So the first in the series, and it's sometimes referred to as the Outland Trilogy by Rachel Cusk. I read Outline in this ugly, that I picked up this second-hand copy, ugly, terrible paperback. This is published by Vintage, interestingly. And then the second one, I picked up a hardback. So we got Outline, and then we got Transit. It's just really the most mismatched thing. And then the third one, which I just read this weekend, is Kudos, which is published by Faber and Faber. So Faber and Faber and Vintage, I don't think are in the same thing. So originally published by Vintage, eventually published by Faber and Faber put out matching copies. So you can get, if you care about these things, you can get all three of these, Outline and Transit and Kudos, are all in an edition just like this, which would look very nice, the three of them lined up on my shelf. Instead, I'm getting this lined up on my shelf, just terribly mismatched. And this the Faber and Faber are just gorgeous editions. This is a view from a plane window. This is just the most tremendous storytelling. I can't even begin to. My phone keeps beeping. Have we won the test match? There's a test match. India need to get like 70 odd runs, and England need 2 more wickets to win the most exciting test match. Anyway, I can't even begin to explain or position Rachel Cusk anywhere in the literary landscape. I don't know what this is. I only know that she meets people, or the narrator meets people and starts conversations or listens to conversations, and there's stories being told, and they're so human and interesting, and the characters are so flawed and presented without judgment, and just something unbelievably special. And each one of these books I found moving and interesting, and unlike almost anything else I've ever read. I don't know, maybe there are other writers, maybe there's a whole bunch of Rachel Cusk-alikes. I don't know of them, and I haven't read them if there are, because she seems to be in a group of one, and that was the last Kudos by Rachel Cusk I just read, and what an outstanding trilogy. And I really should probably read more Rachel Cusk, but sometimes I feel that when I've read a trilogy, that's it, I can wrap it up and read someone else. But every part of this was tremendous and unusual and moving, and the last part, Kudos, equally so. And after that, I'm reading the book that my wife finished on the first day of holiday, so it finally got to me, that I've been wanting to read for a while, and this is Jonathan Haidt's The Anxious Generation, which I've just started, about 30 pages in. As my wife's summary, and I'm going to read it regardless, is that there's nothing new here, nothing you haven't already thought of. Mobile phones are turning teenagers or making them ill. The obsession and the fact that people are not socializing, that they're not playing outside, that they are driven to involve themselves for hours at a time in their phones and in apps which draw their attention and make them feel bad about themselves. That's kind of the thesis here. But it's Haidt, who I was not familiar with up till now, but is considered an expert in this kind of field, and this is presented from a scientific point of view, not a sort of Malcolm Gladwell have the theory first and then find some science to match it, but actually from a starting point of let's look at the facts and let's see what's going on, let's see what's changed over time and report on it. And it's called The Anxious Generation. I got a fair amount of publicity when it came out. I'm looking to dive in this. My wife, who works in education specifically with people between 15 and 18, and so professionally this was sort of interesting for her, and I'm looking forward to finishing it. That's my lot. That's a whole lot of books that I've spoken about. Hope you're all keeping. Oh yeah, the exciting news. The best news I had is I got I somehow seem to be on Vintage's mailing list, and they sent me a thing. Would you like to get and sign up here if you were interested? And I said yes to this latest one, and my friend in London just messaged me to say it had arrived. The new Ian McEwan is waiting for me in London. I'm going in under a month. We'll be in London. The book doesn't come out until September, and I have an advanced reader's copy waiting for me. The new Ian McEwan, absolutely fabulous. It's been 3 years since we had lessons, which I loved. And this is late career McEwan, not making the news as maybe some of his earlier works did, but I thought Lessons was top tier. Really looking forward to the new one. Don't even know what the name of it is, but it's new Ian McEwan. I already own a copy. I'm going to read it before it even comes out, and that's super exciting. Hope you're keeping well. God bless. Bye. Now I'm going to stop recording.